Morning, it's Patsy. So the other day when I showed my stretch tarot, when I did my first revisited series that I'm going to start, I did say that I use this deck for specific reasons, such as past life readings and ancestor readings. So I said that I would try and get a past life reading done to show you how I work with them doing a past life reading. So I've just sat and put all the cards out. I've laid them all out now because like my spirit readings, I allow the cards to talk to me, so I don't actually shuffle and pull cards. I'll shuffle and let them tell me which which cards come out of the deck which I need. So sometimes that can take a while. These three cards down the side here should be underneath, but I just can't get it all in frame, so I've put them down the side, but they should be below. But for this purpose I've just put them down the side here. Normally I would start one of these readings with my oracle deck, which is called Awakening Far Memory. I think that's what they're called, Awakening Far Memory, which comes in different sections where you can you pull a card to see what part of the world this life was in, and another section of what the area was like that you're from, in agricultural, a town, a ravine, that kind of stuff. Another one of would be sort of like what your life that in that life you was working in or had dealings with, whether that was sort of like law, education, spiritual, and that kind of thing. Another section then sort of you pulled a card to find out whether your lesson in that lifetime was whatever your lesson was. Was you there for growth? Was you there for because of betrayal, or you was the one who's being betrayed, or was it there for fear? Was you there learning about fear and that kind of thing? What your lesson was in that lifetime. And another one section was how you died in that lifetime, that kind of thing. So I usually start with that because that gives you like a starting ground sort of thing, a base, and then I would pull cards asking like in this lifetime in like I got one Tibet, in this lifetime in Tibet, was I male or female? And then I kind of built up the picture using that skeleton of those first 6 cards from the oracle. But you can do it with tarot, and I very often do. I've done these kind of readings quite a lot before, and they've been very insightful. And usually I will journal them all down and see what else my higher self or picks up, and write that down with it. But obviously at the minute, this is just to sort of show you sort of how I do it. So I'll get started. And like I said, I am using the stretch tarot, what I do use for this kind of reading. And the first question that you ask here is you ask them to show them your previous lifetime of yours, and in this lifetime was you male or female. So this is this card here. So the first card is whether you're male or female, and this is a female. So in this particular lifetime that they're going to show me, I was a female. So the second question is about partnerships. Was you married? Did you have a partner? That kind of thing. And this is the second card. And we have this gentleman here, the King of Wands. Now he looks like he's in a uniform. He looks like he's an elderly gentleman, but by his clothing and the way he's standing and what have you, that would suggest that he looks quite not well to do, but he look well, yeah, I suppose, but he looks of a time period of 1800s, that sort of period. But with this empty chair there, it looks like he probably outlived me, because he's taken this photograph is as an old gentleman he's taken with an empty chair. Now obviously the King of Wands, his personality, he was probably very probably had a lot of energy in his youth. He was probably very forward thinking. He was probably very energetic. He probably worked hard towards his goals, and a down-to-earth kind of guy, but you know, was always spurred on by this deep passion within him. So the next question was about family. Did I have family in this lifetime? You know, did we have a family? And then I have the Queen of Pentacles, maternity, and you can see the lady there holding a child. So obviously I was a mother in this lifetime, and quite strangely enough, I'm the Queen of Pentacles this time round. My birth signs and that, and the traits of the Queen of Pentacles is very much me in this lifetime. So it's strange how it's brought up the Queen of Pentacles for this particular lifetime, where I was this mother in this lifetime. So there we go. So the next question you ask is, I'm just bringing up the questions. The next question you ask is, what was my achievement in this lifetime? What did I actually achieve in this particular lifetime? And I got home. 10 of Pentacles, home. So that was my achievement. I made a nice, comfortable home for my family and myself and the children and what have you. So could even mean that I actually owned my own home. We actually had our own home. But that was what I felt like that lifetime I achieved. I achieved at being the mother, and I suppose in that time period, that's what women did in them days, didn't they? They was the one what took care of the home, and that's what I felt I achieved in that lifetime. And strangely enough, that's what I feel like I achieved in this lifetime so far too, my children and my home. And so the next question is about spirituality. Now with this one, 3 cards jumped out, so I kept them. So I've got them in the wrong order. That was the card what threw out first. So this one come out first for my spirituality. Disappointment, heartbreak, you know, the 3 of Swords. So I asked for clarification on why it gave me the 3 of Swords. And this is when the other 2 cards jumped out at me. And the first one was the Hermit. The second one was power and the 4 of Pentacles. So what I kind of gained from this was that with this sorrow card here, whatever path my spirituality was, it wasn't a mainstream, and it had to be something that I did within myself or within my home or in a secret sort of thing. I'm going within rather than going to a church or whatever, for whatever reason this may be. Because with the Hermit, you know, this is all about seeking the answers within, and not normal reformed religion. Do you know what I mean? It's all about going deep within yourself and learning your own spirituality and what have you. And it was something that gave me power that I didn't find in normal society religion. So this kind of made me feel that whatever it was I was practicing, it wasn't something that I'd done in the open. It was something that I'd done within my own space, within myself, and was actual spirituality rather than a downright religious kind of thing. Because all that brought me was this kind of disappointment and feeling of sorrow and grief and what have you. So I went within and took the power from myself, from within myself. So that's what we got from there. So the next set of questions is the row underneath here. So this kind of gives you an overall run of, you know, I was a woman in this life, a lady in this life. I was married to this gentleman, the King of Wands. I was a mother in this particular lifetime, and I felt that my achievements was my home and family, and my spirituality, normal religion and what have you, at that point was disappointing for me, and I found my spirituality by going within and finding the power within myself. So this is the next load of questions. So this is sort of like, what was the fears of the society at this time, in this time period that this lifetime was. and we have the Hanged Man. So I think from taking that this was a time and in a place where hangings was a regular occurrence. That was one of the fears. If you was caught doing something wrong, even with your spirituality, you could be hung for it. Do you know what I mean? So that is the fears of the society at this time point. And then the second one was, what was the actual joy of the society at this time? And there's two cards here, because one jumped out, which was this one, which sort of didn't really, it sort of talks of patience. You know, the joy isn't really having to have patience, is it? But so I asked for clarification for this, and we got the Hierophant. So I think this time period that this lifetime was, there wasn't really a lot of joy in society, or not for my standing in the society, or you know, with financial or what have you. That standing could have been the colour of my skin, it could have been any reason. But for whatever reason, there wasn't a particular joy. There was always this fear that, you know, you could be hung. But the joy in it was that there really wasn't none. Everything was controlled. There was always this kind of controlled environment going on, and you just had to deal with it how you could deal with it, you know, and have this patience. But it also makes me wonder with this figure here whether the path that I followed was of this kind of little witch girl here, whether that was the kind of path that I was following. I was following that pagan path, or and these ones up here had already sort of indicated that the path I was on wasn't the normal religious path. It was something that I did within myself for my power. So this kind of makes me feel like that this was the only joy I got, because everything else in this time was so controlled. So that's what we get from that. And then the next question is, what was the dreams of society? Is that right? Yeah, what was the dreams of society? And we've got this one here, rest. And from this I took it that this time period that they're talking about was probably a lot of unrest going on. It probably could have even been during a time of civil unrest or civil war in a certain country or whatever. But I kind of got the feeling when this came up that the hopes of the society was that there was going to be peace, there was going to be rest, people were going to put their swords down, or whatever they was using, sort of put it down and come to sort of like a peaceful conclusion. So I asked the cards to clarify this card, and it brought up the King of Cups, and he is in some kind of uniform. Again, it's like a uniform. So from these two cards I kind of guessed that it was sort of like an end to the civil unrest or the warring, whatever it is, what's going on. That was what the hopes of the society was at the time. So the next questions that you ask is what was your life like as a child? So what was my life like as a child in this lifetime? And I got the Chariot. So to me, the Chariot is about forward thinking, always moving, always wanting, you know, knowing what I wanted, trying to reach them goals, and being quite in control of my, you know, of myself, knowing what I wanted. So as a child I was quite probably a precarious little madam, but knew what she wanted. So as an adolescent, what was my life like? And we got the Strength card. So it was a time that things probably was starting to get difficult, and I needed a lot of inner strength to deal with things what was going on in the life, and in my environment, and in the world, you know, my world around me. It took this quiet inner strength that was needed. And how did it affect oh, lost it, as an adult? How was my life as an adult? Oh, very dark card though, I don't know if you can see that, but the key word is oppression. So as an adult I was very oppressed, which would tie in very much with the spiritual side of things, and this image here in a society that still did hang-ins, and there was all this unrest and what have you. So as an adult, I felt very oppressed, that I couldn't be my true self as an adult, which I do believe must have started in the adolescent years, when I needed this inner strength to be able to deal with what was going on. So as an adult, my life was quite oppressive. You know, there was a lot of oppression around. And then as an elderly person, what was my life like? And the key word is worry. It's the Five of Pentacles. So I obviously had very little money. Finances was a worrying situation. She's carrying something on her back here, a child on her back, look. So I felt like I had too much to carry, sort of too much worries on my back, too much to, you know, but everything was just very worrying. They just didn't know financially how it worked. And also on the original, you know, the Five of Pentacles, you know, it shows the lame couples walking past the church, that what have you. So again, it's that destitute feeling, but also there could be some kind of illness that was sort of also prevalent in my old age. So that is the kind of life that this kind of reading gives you. You can go in more in depth if you want, and you can pull more cards on a question like I did this one, but I just wanted to give you an overall view. So the last three cards that you pulled is what was your lessons in this lifetime? What you know, what did you actually learn about in this lifetime? And the first card that I got was disappointment. So that life was full of disappointment, and I guess I had to learn to deal with the disappointment, and this is probably where these inner strength come from. But it was a time that held a lot of disappointments for me. The second card is cruelty. Now with the swords, I see that as probably not always such physical cruelty, but I probably was put under a lot of mental cruelty. Again, if you're in a time period where there was oppression and what have you, and you know, you was dealing with, you know, that kind of time frame, then especially if you wasn't the run-of-the-mill spiritual person, religious person or whatever, if you was different slightly, and if you was pagan-y, witchy, what have you, or even a person, you know, of different colour skin or what have you, then there would have been a lot of mental cruelty going on. So that was another thing that I dealt with, and one of my lessons in that life, as well as defeat. And again, this is a sword card, and again, if this picture here, you can see that it's like kind of mental torture, you know, that kind of cruelty again in the head sort of thing, you know, in your in the way you think, in the way. And again, there's like soldiers here, so I do believe this would have been in a time period of unrest where there was a lot of cruelty and we, you know, defeat. And I probably was on the side where we was defeated, do you know what I mean? But when you do these ones here about what the joys of life and all this lot by the second row, you can add all the cards up to get, you know, and it can give you roughly a time period that is talking about. So if we take these cards and we go 7 and 6, no, 4, that is a 4, not 6, so that's 11, and a 7, that's 18, and then we've got a 4 and a 0 because there's no number. So that would give you a time period of either 1840 or 1804 for a time period. So that is the sort of time period that we're probably talking about. So there you go. That is the kind of reading you can get with doing a past life with the tarot. This is using this particular deck, the Stretch Tarot, what I love to use for these kind of readings. You can, like I said, you can go more in depth by pulling more cards. I usually go more in depth by starting off with my skeleton cards from my Awakening Far Memory Oracle deck, because that way you can build on each of those sections and build up a bigger picture to, you know, and you would be surprised at some of the answers and how once you start putting that down into a journal and writing about how your mind clicks in, and you write information down there that the cards probably didn't even tell you. It's just something what comes from your inner self, your higher self. So hope you've enjoyed this, and thank you for watching, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.